From the shadowed stages of theater to the silver screens of cinema, it's an image burned into our collective consciousness. A serene, sometimes haunting, face of the deceased, with coins delicately placed upon their eyes. It's a striking visual, imbued with a sense of ancient mystery, often whispered to be a passage to the afterlife. But is this arresting depiction a true echo from the sun-drenched landscapes of ancient Greece, or merely a phantom conjured by centuries of popular storytelling? Tonight, we embark on a journey beneath the surface of legend, into the very heart of how the ancient Greeks confronted their mortality. Their world was steeped in profound reverence for the unseen, a universe where the boundary between life and death was both thin and meticulously guarded. For them, death was not an end, but a departure, a solemn passage to a realm overseen by formidable deities and navigated by a silent, spectral ferryman. In this documentary, Coins for Charon, Unraveling Ancient Greek Death Rituals and the Myth of the Obolus, we will meticulously peel back the layers of myth and misconception. We will unearth the true historical practices, exploring the intricate rituals of preparing the dead, the profound beliefs surrounding the underworld, and the pivotal, often misunderstood, role of Charon, the psychopomp. Our quest will reveal the genuine purpose and placement of the Obolus, that single, small coin whose true story is far more compelling than any modern fantasy. Across 23 revealing sections, prepare to cross the river Styx with us as we illuminate the genuine final journey of the ancient Greeks and discover why a single coin held such immense power. For centuries, the images haunted our screens and imaginations. The deceased, lying in solemn repose, with two gleaming coins resting gently on their eyelids. From the chilling final scenes of gangster epics to the gothic beauty of period dramas, this visual shorthand has become an almost universal symbol of death and passage. We see it in classic literature, echoed in modern thrillers, and even whispered in campfire stories. It's a powerful, unsettling tableau, the metallic glint a stark contrast to the pale, still flesh, suggesting a final, ancient rite. But where does this pervasive image come from? Is it a forgotten truth, a practice lost to the mists of time, or merely a captivating embellishment crafted by storytellers to heighten the drama of departure? The very prevalence of this trope in our collective consciousness begs a deeper question. Did our ancestors truly send their loved ones off with such a curious offering? This documentary embarks on a journey not just into the ancient past, but into the very fabric of belief and ritual that shaped one of humanity's most enduring mysteries. We'll peel back the layers of popular myth and cinematic fantasy to unearth the historical accuracy, or lack thereof, behind this haunting vision. We're drawn to it because it speaks to a fundamental human concern. What happens after we die? And what, if anything, can the living do to aid the journey of the departed? As we delve into the heart of ancient Greek death rituals, we will confront a truth far more intricate, and perhaps even more poignant, than the silver-laden eyes of fictional characters. The misconception of coins on eyes is merely the starting point, a doorway into a world where death was not an end, but a perilous passage, meticulously prepared for and deeply revered. The cinematic images we've just witnessed, powerful as they are, perpetuate a compelling misconception. For while the symbolism of precious metals accompanying the dead is indeed rooted in antiquity, the precise placement has been dramatically altered by the passage of time and the embellishments of popular culture. We must now turn our gaze from the silver screen to the silent whispers of history, to the archaeological sites and ancient texts that reveal a very different, yet equally profound, truth. The ancient Greeks did not place coins on the eyes of their deceased. Instead, their ritual was far more specific, far more deliberate. A single coin, known as the Obolus, was carefully positioned not on the eyelids, but in the mouth of the departed. Often found under the tongue or tucked between the lips, this small coin served a singular, critical purpose. This immediate revelation challenges a deeply ingrained modern image. For centuries, excavators unearthing ancient Greek burial sites have consistently found evidence of this practice. Skeletons, often thousands of years old, with small, oxidized coins resting precisely where the mouth once was. These archaeological findings, dating back to at least the 5th century BCE and continuing well into the Roman period, provide undeniable proof. The discrepancy between the popular image and the historical fact is striking, yet it underscores a crucial point. The past is often far more nuanced and fascinating than our modern interpretations allow. This simple coin, carefully placed, was not merely a decorative farewell. It was an essential instrument for the soul's perilous journey, a payment for a specific, formidable entity awaiting the newly dead. To understand why it was placed in the mouth, we must first understand the journey it was meant to facilitate, a journey into the heart of the ancient Greek conception of the afterlife. Before we delve deeper into the coin itself, we must first immerse ourselves in the worldview that necessitated such a ritual. For the ancient Greeks, death was not an oblivion, but a profound transformation, a passage from the sunlit world of the living to the shadowy realm of the dead. Their concept of the afterlife, meticulously detailed in epics like Homer's Odyssey and Hesiod's Theogony, was complex, often bleak, and utterly central to their understanding of existence. They believed that upon death, the psyche, the breath, the soul, the animating principle separated from the body. This psyche was not an ethereal, all-powerful spirit, but often depicted as a shadowy, weak phantom, a mere shade of its former self, destined for a perpetual existence in the underworld. This underworld, ruled by the enigmatic god Hades and his queen Persephone, was not necessarily a place of punishment for all, but a universal destination. It was divided into various regions: the Elysian fields for the heroic and righteous, the asphodel meadows for the common souls, and Tartarus for the truly wicked, destined for eternal torment. But reaching even the asphodel meadows was no simple feat. The journey was fraught with peril and governed by unyielding laws, a bureaucratic passage that demanded adherence to specific rites. The proper burial, the lamentations of the living, and crucially, the provision of safe passage were not merely acts of mourning, but vital components ensuring the deceased soul would not linger, restless and tormented, between worlds. This belief system, far from being a collection of fanciful tales, deeply informed their daily lives, their ethics, and especially their elaborate preparations for death. It was this fear of a wandering soul, a psyche denied its final rest, that fueled the meticulous attention to funerary rites, transforming them into a sacred duty. The journey was epic, the stakes eternal, and the first step into this shadowy realm depended on a single, vital transaction. The Greek underworld, Hades, was not a singular, undifferentiated void, but a meticulously structured realm, a geography of the dead. To truly understand the purpose of the Obolus, we must first traverse its daunting landscape, a journey undertaken by every soul. Immediately beyond the veil of life, the departed faced formidable natural barriers. Chief among these were the 5 rivers of Hades, each with its own symbolic and practical significance. First, the Charon, the river of woe, often described as the primary gateway, though some sources designate the Styx as the more significant boundary. The Styx, the river of hatred, was so sacred that even the Olympian gods swore their most unbreakable oaths upon it. Then there was Cocytus, the river of lamentation, flowing with the tears of the sorrowful, and Phlegethon, the river of fire, whose burning currents encircled Tartarus. Finally, the river Lethe, the river of oblivion, from which souls drank to forget their mortal lives before reincarnation or permanent residence. These rivers were not merely poetic metaphors. They were literal obstacles, often uncrossable by mortal means. And beyond them lay formidable gates, guarded by terrifying sentinels. The most famous of these was Cerberus, the monstrous 3-headed hound of Hades, with a mane of snakes and a lion's claws. Cerberus stood vigilant at the entrance to Hades, preventing the living from entering and the dead from escaping. His presence enforced the strict boundaries between worlds, a testament to the order that even death could not disrupt. Any soul attempting to bypass these rivers or deceive these guardians faced eternal torment. It was a realm designed to intimidate, to ensure that only the properly prepared and the properly paid could gain legitimate entry. The journey through this chthonic topography was the ultimate test, and without the means to navigate its initial, crucial crossing, a soul was condemned to wander, forever exiled, on the wrong side of eternity. At the threshold of this shadowy realm, guarding the unyielding currents of the Charon or Styx, stood one of the most iconic and terrifying figures of Greek mythology, Charon, the ferryman of the dead. He was not a god, nor a hero, but a chillingly pragmatic psychopomp, whose sole purpose was to transport the newly deceased from the world of the living to the realm of Hades. Depicted as an ancient, gruff, and often ragged old man with a long beard and piercing eyes, Charon was a figure of unyielding temperament. He cared little for the pleas or lamentations of the dead. His service was purely transactional. Charon's vessel was a simple, often rickety skiff, barely large enough for his ghostly passengers. He navigated the murky waters with a long pole, pushing through the spectral fog that perpetually shrouded the infernal rivers. His gaze was fixed, his demeanor indifferent, reflecting the absolute finality of the journey. He was a being of pure function, an essential cog in the vast machinery of death. His legend, recorded in works like Virgil's Aeneid and Aristophanes' comedies, underscores his singular, unwavering law. No soul could cross the river without payment. Without the requisite fare, souls were condemned to linger on the riverbanks for 100 years, weeping and pleading, forever denied their ultimate rest. Imagine the profound terror of such a fate, to be eternally separated from both the living and the truly dead, trapped in a desolate limbo, watching countless others make their passage, simply for lack of a single, small coin. This grim ferryman, this unyielding gatekeeper, was the reason behind one of antiquity's most enduring and essential death rituals. The unyielding rule of Charon established a critical need, the fare, and the specific coin demanded for this passage was the obolus. But what exactly was an obolus? In ancient Greece, the obolus was a small silver or copper coin, a fraction of larger denominations like the drachma. Its name, in fact, derives from the Greek word obolos, meaning an iron spit or skewer, which was an early form of currency before coinage became widespread. By the classical period, the obolus was a common fixture in daily life, though its value was modest. It was roughly equivalent to a day's wage for common labor or the cost of a basic meal. A single obolus could buy you a few olives, a small loaf of bread, or a handful of nuts. It was the smallest coin in regular circulation, yet in the context of death, it became priceless. Cities across the vast Hellenic world minted their own oboli, often featuring local deities, animals, or symbols. From Athens, depicting the owl of Athena, to Aegina with its sea turtle, these tiny coins were ubiquitous. But their true significance wasn't in their material value in the marketplace of the living, but in their symbolic, transactional power in the economy of the dead. It was the specific fare known to all, from the humblest peasant to the wealthiest aristocrat. Everyone, regardless of their status in life, required the same single obolus for Charon's ferry. This standardization highlighted a stark truth. In death, all were equal before the grim ferryman. The obolus was not a bribe, nor a gift, but a mandated payment, a bureaucratic requirement for safe passage. Without it, the journey to the afterlife was irrevocably stalled, leaving the soul stranded in an eternal purgatory. Its small size, its commonness, ironically made it universally accessible, a final, democratic requirement for every ancient Greek soul preparing for its greatest journey. With the importance of the obolus established, we return to its peculiar placement, in the mouth of the deceased. Why this specific intimate spot? The answer lies in a confluence of practical necessity, profound symbolism, and ancient Greek beliefs about the body and the soul. Firstly, practicality played a role. The mouth, particularly under the tongue or between the lips, provided a secure and discreet place for the coin. Unlike placing in a hand, which might shift or open during the journey or burial process, the mouth offered a relatively stable repository. This ensured the Obolus would be present and easily accessible when Charon came for his fare. Beyond practicality, the symbolism runs deep. In many ancient cultures, the mouth was considered the gateway of the soul, the place from which the final breath, the psyche, departed the body. Placing the Obolus there could symbolize a direct connection between the departed soul and its necessary payment, almost as if the soul itself was holding the fare. It was a last utterance of intent, a final act of agency by the deceased, facilitated by the living. Furthermore, the mouth is the primary means of communication and transaction in life. By placing the coin here, it transformed the Obolus from a mere object into an active instrument of passage, a direct payment mechanism. It wasn't just on the body. It was in the body, becoming an integral part of the final identity the deceased presented to the underworld. Some scholars suggest it also ensured the body's integrity, preventing the removal of the coin by grave robbers, thereby condemning the soul to wander. The family's duty was paramount, to ensure their loved one was fully equipped for the challenges ahead, and that meant securing the fare in the most traditional and sacred spot. The placement of the Obolus in the mouth was thus a powerful, ritualistic act, a silent yet emphatic declaration that the living had done everything in their power to prepare the soul for its eternal journey. The placement of the Obolus was not an isolated act, but the culmination of a series of intricate and deeply significant death rituals. In ancient Greece, death was a communal event, steeped in tradition and managed predominantly by women. Immediately following a death, the body underwent a solemn preparation known as the prothesis. This began with the prothesis, the laying out of the body. The deceased would be carefully washed, anointed with fragrant oils and perfumes, a practice not unlike embalming in its intent to purify and preserve, and then dressed in fine grave clothes or a clean white shroud. Women, often the closest female relatives, were responsible for this intimate and sacred duty, their hands performing the final acts of care for their loved one. After the prothesis, the body was laid on a bier, often adorned with garlands of flowers and wreaths, in the home for a period of 1 to 2 days. This was the time for public lamentation, a period of intense, ritualized mourning known as the threenos. Family members, particularly female relatives and hired mourners, would gather, tearing at their hair, beating their chests, and wailing loudly, sometimes even scratching their faces. This outpouring of grief was not merely an emotional release, but a vital public affirmation of the death, a way to appease the spirits and ensure the deceased was properly acknowledged before their final journey. It was during this tender period, amidst the solemn preparations and public displays of grief, that the Obolus would be placed in the mouth, a final, crucial act before the ekphora, the funeral procession that would carry the deceased to their burial site. Each step, from the cleansing of the body to the wailing of the mourners, was designed to guide the soul, to ensure its peaceful transition, and to solidify the community's acknowledgement of life's ultimate passage. The Obolus was thus the essential key, placed carefully and reverently within a meticulously orchestrated ritual of farewell. As the initial shock of death settled upon an ancient Greek household, the solemn and sacred ritual of the prothesis would begin. This wasn't merely a preparation for burial. It was the public display of the deceased, a critical first act in a carefully choreographed farewell that acknowledged death's profound impact on both individual and community. For a period typically between 24 and 48 hours, the body of the departed would be laid out on a funerary couch, known as a klein, within the family home. Imagine the scene, the air thick with the scent of aromatic herbs and oils, painstakingly applied to cleanse and anoint the deceased. The body, often dressed in its finest white linen, would be adorned with wreaths and funerary fillets, signifying purity and honor. Around the Klein, women of the household, traditionally led by the closest female relatives, would begin the ritual lamentation. Their cries, often piercing and rhythmic, known as goos, were not just an expression of raw, unbridled grief, but a structured performance, sometimes accompanied by hired mourners or three-notes, whose professional wails amplified the family's sorrow for all to hear. This public outpouring of emotion served a vital psychological function, allowing the community to collectively confront and process the reality of loss. Yet, the prophecies was more than just a spectacle of sorrow. It was a period of final communion, where family members, friends, and even wider community members could pay their last respects. They would approach the deceased, touching them, whispering final words, and offering small tokens of remembrance. The door to the home would often be left ajar, signifying the open acceptance of death and inviting those from the polis to participate in this communal grieving. Vessels of water would be placed outside the entrance, a symbolic purification for those entering and leaving the house, marking the liminal space between the living and the dead. The prophesis was a powerful testament to the Greek understanding of death not as an isolated event, but as a societal transition, demanding collective recognition and emotional release before the final journey could begin. It set the stage for the deceased's passage, preparing not just the body, but the entire community for the ultimate farewell. As dawn broke on the day following the prophesis, a new phase of the funerary rites would commence, the ekphora. This was the solemn procession, the final, public journey that carried the deceased from the intimate confines of the family home to their ultimate resting place. Unlike the private lamentation of the prophesis, the ekphora was a public spectacle, a final demonstration of respect and status within the community, but also a poignant, communal farewell. The ritual began shortly after sunrise, a symbolic timing perhaps, mirroring the transition from the night of grief into the day of the soul's journey. The deceased, still resting upon the Klein or a specially constructed bier, would be carried through the streets of the polis. This was a strictly regulated event. Laws, such as those famously enacted by the Athenian statesman Solon in the 6th century BC, often dictated who could participate, what they could wear, and the nature of the lamentation. These sumptuary laws aimed to prevent excessive displays of wealth or emotional excess, ensuring decorum and civic order even in the face of death. The procession itself was a moving tableau. Male relatives, dressed in simple clothing, typically led the way, their heads often bowed in sorrow. The bier, often draped with rich cloths and garlands, would be carried either on the shoulders of close family members or, for wealthier families, on a horse-drawn cart. Behind them followed the women, their ritual wailing continuing, sometimes accompanied by flute players whose mournful melodies added to the somber atmosphere. Children, slaves, and other community members would join the procession, creating a long, winding line through the city's arteries, a poignant visual representation of the deceased's societal impact. Every step of the ekphora was laden with meaning. It was the physical act of severing ties with the world of the living, a slow, deliberate journey towards the underworld. As the procession moved through the familiar streets, past houses and market squares, it served as a powerful reminder to the living of their own mortality and of the inevitable passage that awaited them all. The ekphora was the community's last opportunity to witness the departed, to acknowledge their existence, and to collectively send them off, a final public validation before the earth claimed its own. Upon reaching the designated necropolis, the city of the dead, the ekphora culminated in the final act, the burial. Ancient Greek burial practices varied widely across regions and time periods, yet all shared a fundamental purpose: to provide a respectful, eternal home for the deceased and a permanent place for the living to remember and honor them. From the earliest Mycenaean shaft graves of the Bronze Age to the intricate chamber tombs of later periods, the Greeks adapted their methods, but the underlying reverence for the dead remained constant. The simplest burials involved placing the deceased directly into the earth, sometimes within a shallow pit or a stone-lined cist grave. These might be covered by a modest mound or tumulus, often marking communal burial grounds. For those of greater means, more elaborate tombs emerged. Underground tholoi or beehive tombs, particularly prevalent in the Mycenaean era, showcased monumental architecture, often with long processional dromoi leading to grand burial chambers. Later, wealthy families would construct elaborate rock-cut tombs or sarcophagi, sometimes adorned with intricate carvings depicting scenes from the deceased's life or mythical narratives related to the underworld. Crucially, almost every burial was accompanied by a grave marker. These markers were not merely identifiers. They were tangible links between the living and the dead, ensuring the deceased would not be forgotten. The earliest forms included simple, unworked stones. Over time, these evolved into sophisticated carved stone stelae, upright slabs often depicting the deceased, sometimes with family members or symbolic objects. These stelae might bear inscriptions, the name of the departed, their lineage, a brief epitaph, or even poetic verses. The renowned Charon necropolis in Athens, for example, is famous for its stunning collection of these grave markers, offering a window into Athenian society and artistic achievement. From the imposing marble koroi and korai of the archaic period, standing as timeless guardians, to the classical Attic lekythoi, oil vessels often depicting funerary scenes, placed at grave sites. Each marker and offering spoke volumes. They not only delineated the resting place, but also served as a perpetual monument, a public declaration of the deceased's identity and legacy. These eternal homes, whether humble or grand, ensured that while the body returned to the earth, the memory and presence of the individual endured in the collective consciousness of their community, forever etched into stone and story. For centuries, the tale of Charon and his ferryman's fee has resonated through myth. But is it just a story, or a reflection of ancient Greek belief made manifest in ritual? The earth, our greatest archive, has been slowly yielding its secrets, offering tangible proof that confirms this profoundly ingrained practice: the placement of the Obolus with the deceased. Archaeological excavations across the Hellenic world have brought history to life, presenting irrefutable evidence. From the vast necropolis of Charon in Athens to sites like Corinth, Argos, and even further afield in Magna Graecia, archaeologists have meticulously uncovered burials dating from the Archaic period through the Roman era, roughly from the 8th century BCE to the 4th century CE. What they have consistently found, alongside skeletal remains, are small copper or bronze coins, obols. The discovery is often breathtakingly precise. In numerous instances, these tiny coins, barely larger than a modern fingernail, have been found in situ within the oral cavity of the deceased skull, or carefully positioned just next to the jawbone, where the coin would have rested in the mouth or under the tongue. Imagine the careful, painstaking work of an archaeologist, gently brushing away millennia of earth, only to reveal the unmistakable glint of a coin nestled exactly where tradition dictates. This isn't coincidence. It's a deliberate act, repeated countless times over centuries across a vast geographical area. These archaeological finds are more than mere curiosities. They're direct windows into the past, offering solid confirmation of a myth transformed into ritual. The consistency of these discoveries, dating from diverse social strata, from the humble graves of commoners to the more elaborate tombs of the elite, underscores the widespread belief in Charon's toll. It wasn't a practice limited to a select few. It was a communal understanding, a universal preparation for the journey ahead. Each unearthed obelisk, often corroded and fragile, whispers across time, a silent testament to the Greeks' profound concern for the soul's passage and their unwavering belief in the terrifying ferryman, Charon, who demanded his due. While the obelisk secured passage, it was rarely the only item accompanying the departed into their eternal sleep. The ancient Greeks, much like many cultures, believed in equipping their dead for the afterlife, reflecting a deeply human desire to provide comfort, status, or essential provisions for the soul's journey. This practice of interring grave goods offers us profound insights into their daily lives, social structures, and most importantly, their complex beliefs about death and what lay beyond. Archaeologists frequently uncover a diverse array of objects within Greek burials. Personal adornments were common. Intricate gold jewelry, bronze fibulae for clothing, or cosmetic implements, suggesting that even in death, a sense of personal identity and presentation was maintained. For men, miniature weapons or athletic equipment like strigils, tools for scraping oil and dirt from the body after exercise, might be found, hinting at their earthly pursuits and status. For women, spindle whorls, looms, or mirrors could accompany them, emphasizing their roles within the household. Pottery, in particular, tells a rich story. Beautifully painted lekythoi, slender oil flasks often decorated with funerary scenes, were specifically designed for burial rituals, holding perfumed oils to anoint the body. Crater-shaped vases and amphorae, depending on their size and decoration, might have contained food or drink offerings, or simply served as prestige items. These vessels not only provided practical provisions for the journey, but also acted as artistic statements, reflecting the deceased's status or the family's piety. Beyond utilitarian or personal items, votive offerings, small figurines, perhaps depicting deities, animals, or even simplified human forms, speak to a desire for divine favor or protection in the underworld. Children's graves, particularly poignant, often contain their favorite toys, miniature chariots, or dolls, underscoring the universal hope that even the youngest souls would find comfort in the great unknown. These grave goods were not merely possessions. They were messages, symbols, and provisions, meticulously chosen to ease the transition, to affirm identity, and to honor the memory of the departed, ensuring their continued well-being in the realms beyond mortal understanding. The archaeological evidence of the Obolus is compelling, a stark reminder of its profound importance. For the ancient Greeks, paying Charon's fee was not merely a custom. It was an absolute necessity, a vital assurance for the soul's peaceful journey. To fail in this duty, to neglect the placement of that humble coin, invoked a terrifying and dreadful fate, a destiny far worse than oblivion. Greek mythology paints a chilling picture for those unfortunate souls left without passage. Imagine the newly departed spirit arriving at the banks of the Charon or the Styx, the black, churning rivers of the underworld. Before them stands Charon, the grim, unyielding ferryman, his eyes perhaps burning with an otherworldly light, his hand outstretched for his payment. The soul, unable to produce the Obolus, would be met not with compassion, but with cold indifference. Charon, bound by cosmic law, would deny passage. This denial meant an eternity of restless wandering. These souls, neither truly alive nor truly dead, were condemned to linger on the riverbanks, forlorn shades trapped forever between worlds. They could not cross into Hades, could not find rest in the Elysian fields, nor suffer the torments of Tartarus. They were simply lost, disembodied echoes of a life once lived, their torment a perpetual yearning for a crossing that would never come. They were the athanatoi, the deathless ones, but not in a glorious sense, rather eternally unfulfilled. This fear of an unquiet spirit was deeply ingrained, manifesting in rituals far beyond the Obolus. The proper burial, the full funerary rites, all played a part in ensuring the deceased transition. A body left unburied, for instance, was considered an absolute anathema, condemning the soul to the same fate of restless wandering. It was a societal duty, an obligation to the dead, to ensure they were properly cared for, not just for their sake, but for the peace of the living. The specter of a vengeful, wandering ghost, or a tormented spirit unable to find its way, served as a powerful deterrent, driving home the critical, life-or-death importance of that single, unassuming coin for Charon. The idea of a ferryman's fee immediately raises a crucial question. Was the afterlife truly accessible to all? Could wealth or poverty dictate one's destiny beyond the grave? The Obolus, a coin of minimal value in ancient Greece, suggests a complex answer, reflecting both the universal nature of death and the enduring realities of social stratification. The typical Obolus was a small denomination coin, often made of bronze or copper. Its cost was negligible, even for the poorest citizen or slave. This affordability was likely by design, ensuring that virtually everyone could afford the passage fee. The very purpose of this ritual was to guarantee safe passage for all souls, regardless of their earthly status. In death, it seems, there was a fundamental equality of access to the underworld's gates, a shared human need to transcend the mortal coil peacefully. This universality underscores the deep-seated belief that Charon's toll was an inescapable, almost bureaucratic requirement of the cosmos, not a luxury for the privileged. However, while the Obolus itself was humble, the overall funerary practices still revealed social distinctions. A wealthy Athenian family might afford elaborate prothesis rituals, a grand ekphra with hired mourners and musicians, and a monumental marble stele for their grave marker. Their grave goods would be extensive and luxurious. Fine pottery, gold jewelry, valuable weapons, all reflecting their status in life. For the poor, the burial would be far simpler. A plain shroud, a shallow grave, perhaps an unworked stone for a marker, and often only the essential Obolus as a grave good. So, while the basic entry fee to the afterlife was democratized, the journey to the grave and the enduring memory left behind very much remain a reflection of one's earthly means. This subtle stratification highlights the ancient Greek tension between the universal human experience of death and the persistent social hierarchies of life. Even in their final journey, individuals were marked by their societal place. Yet the fundamental requirement of Charon's fee remained a poignant equalizer, a reminder that the great ferryman, it seemed, accepted the same coin from every hand. Beyond the elaborate rituals and the pervasive myths, the ancient Greeks, particularly their greatest thinkers, grappled with death on a profound philosophical level. Figures like Socrates and Plato delved deep into the nature of the soul, its immortality, and its ultimate destiny, transforming crude mythology into intellectual inquiry. For them, death was not merely an ending, but a pivotal transition, perhaps even a liberation. Socrates, facing his own execution in 399 BCE, famously contemplated death in Plato's Dialogue Phaedo. He viewed the body as a prison for the soul, and death as the ultimate release, allowing the soul to achieve true wisdom and purity. For Socrates, the philosopher's entire life was a preparation for death, a continuous effort to free the soul from the distractions of the physical world. He believed the soul, being divine and immortal, would journey to a realm of pure forms and eternal truths, a destiny far more significant than any earthly existence. Plato, building upon his mentor's ideas, articulated a complex cosmology of the soul's journey. In dialogues like Phaedrus and the Republic, he described the soul as tripartite, composed of reason, spirit, and appetite, and immortal. Upon death, the soul would undergo a judgment, its fate determined by its actions in life. Virtuous souls might ascend to the meadows of Amenthys or other celestial realms, experiencing cycles of reincarnation, metempsychosis, until finally achieving true liberation. Those who lived unjustly faced purification or punishment in Tartarus before potential rebirth. Plato's allegories, such as the myth of air, painted vivid pictures of this post-mortem journey, a cosmic scale of justice and redemption. These philosophical perspectives provided a deeper, intellectual framework for understanding the death rituals. The Obolus for Charon, the grave goods, the elaborate mourning. These were perhaps tangible expressions of an underlying philosophical conviction, that the soul does continue, that its journey is critical, and that its ultimate destiny is tied to both earthly conduct and divine order. The philosophers sought to rationalize the fear of death, to imbue it with purpose, suggesting that the true preparation for the afterlife lay not just in coins and ceremonies, but in the living of a virtuous, examined life, preparing the soul for its ultimate, profound destiny. Our journey through the ancient Greek underworld has so far painted a broad picture, but ancient Greece was far from a monolithic entity. Its myriad city-states, each with unique traditions, laws, and even dialects, naturally developed variations in their most sacred rituals, those surrounding death. The use of the obolus, while broadly accepted, was likely no exception. Imagine the austere, disciplined Sparta, a society focused on military might and civic duty. Here, death rituals were often pragmatic, devoid of the lavish displays seen elsewhere. While the belief in an afterlife and the need for proper burial persisted, Spartan burials tended to be simpler, sometimes marked by stone stele, and grave goods less ostentatious. An obolus for Charon was probably still included, a fundamental theological requirement, but perhaps without the same emphasis on symbolic wealth or elaborate ceremony found in its rival. Contrast this with Athens, a hub of culture, philosophy, and democracy. Athenian burials could be incredibly intricate, involving elaborate funerary processions, professional mourners, and richly decorated grave monuments known as stele. Archaeological finds from the Dipylon Cemetery, for instance, reveal not only sophisticated pottery, but also hints of personalized offerings. For an Athenian, the journey to the afterlife was often seen as an extension of one's earthly status and identity. The obolus here might have been accompanied by other symbolic provisions, reflecting a society that valued rhetoric, artistry, and a more nuanced engagement with the divine. It wasn't just a payment. It was a curated offering, part of a grander farewell. Then, consider Magna Graecia, the Greek colonies flourishing in southern Italy and Sicily. Here, Hellenic traditions merged with indigenous customs, often resulting in funerary practices that were both recognizably Greek and distinctly local. Tombs in places like Paestum or Terras reveal vibrant frescoes and elaborate sarcophagi, sometimes depicting the deceased feasting or engaging in athletic contests, suggesting a rich, perhaps more optimistic, view of the afterlife. The obolus for Charon would have been an integral part of these hybrid rituals, symbolizing the continuity of Greek belief even as its expression adapted to new lands and influences. These regional differences aren't merely historical footnotes. They underscore the vibrant, diverse tapestry of ancient Greek culture, reminding us that even in the face of death, humanity finds countless ways to express its hopes, fears, and beliefs. From the fragmented diversity of the Greek world, our gaze shifts west to the nascent power that would eventually eclipse it, the Roman Empire. Heavily influenced by Greek culture, art, and philosophy, the Romans, too, developed their own intricate death rituals. But how did they adapt the concept of a passage fee for the underworld? And did Charon himself cross the Tiber? The Roman concept of the afterlife, while sharing some commonalities with the Greeks, a journey, judgment, and various realms, was often colored by their own practical, legalistic worldview. Funerals, funis, were significant public events, meticulously organized by professional undertakers known as libidinarii. Like their Greek predecessors, the Romans believed in the importance of a proper burial for the deceased to find peace in the afterlife, lest their manes, spirits, wander restlessly. And for many Romans, the concept of a ferryman for the dead, often referred to by the Greek name Charon, was well established through their literature, notably Virgil's Aeneid. Archaeological evidence suggests that Romans, too, placed coins with their dead. These were typically small bronze or copper coins, such as asses or quadrants, sometimes placed directly in the mouth of the deceased, much like the Greek obolus. However, the exact purpose could be broader. While the payment for Charon was certainly a strong possibility, These coins could also function as a general offering, stips asterisk, to the chthonic deities, or perhaps as a practical provision for the soul's journey, irrespective of a specific ferryman. It's crucial to note that while the Greeks specifically linked the Obolus to Charon's fee, the Roman interpretation could be more encompassing, integrating it into a wider array of funerary practices. Distinguishing Roman practices from Greek is key. While the Romans adopted many Greek mythological figures and concepts, they often gave them their own distinct flavor. The Roman Charon, for instance, in art and literature, could be depicted as a more menacing, brutish figure than his Greek counterpart. The practice of placing a coin, therefore, became a shared tradition, but with subtle differences in its primary emphasis, reflecting the distinct cultural lenses through which Greeks and Romans confronted the ultimate unknown. While the spectral figure of Charon undoubtedly dominated the ancient Greek imagination when it came to coins and the dead, their presence in funerary contexts carried a deeper, more multifaceted symbolism than a mere ferryman's fare. Beyond the practical payment, these humble pieces of metal spoke volumes about the deceased, their life, and their enduring connection to the world they had left behind. Consider the concept of status. Not all oboli were created equal. While bronze or copper coins served the primary purpose for Charon, the discovery of silver or even gold coins in some burials suggests a desire to project the deceased's wealth and social standing into the afterlife. A wealthy Athenian might have been interred with a finer coin, an offering that underscored their worldly prestige, perhaps hoping to garner favor in the courts of Hades, or simply to ensure a more comfortable passage, a reflection of their earthly privilege. It was a final material testament to their position in society, carried into the realm of the dead. Then there's the powerful symbolism of identity. Coins were not just anonymous tokens. They bore the markings of specific city-states, the effigies of rulers, or the symbols of specific eras. A coin minted during a particular reign or bearing the owl of Athens, the Pegasus of Corinth, or the bull of Thurii could serve as a tangible link between the departed and their homeland, their political allegiance, or the very epoch in which they lived. It was a piece of their world, a marker of who they were and where they belonged, a final credential in the journey to the unknown. For many, a coin was also a deeply personal possession, a small part of their material life that accompanied them. Finally, coins represented a final connection to the material world. In a society that valued tangible goods and economic exchange, a coin was the ultimate symbol of human enterprise. By placing it with the dead, the living were perhaps offering a last provision, a token of memory, or even a symbolic bridge between the realms of the living and the dead. It was a completion of earthly duties, a final gesture of care, and a potent reminder that even in death, the echoes of life, commerce, and human interaction lingered. The Obolus for Charon was indeed critical, but it was also part of a broader symbolic language, speaking to humanity's profound need for meaning, ritual, and connection in the face of ultimate separation. We began this journey by confronting a powerful, almost iconic image, coins placed on the eyes of the deceased. It's a visual instantly recognized from countless films, novels, and popular culture references, often presented as an ancient tradition, inextricably linked to Charon and his infernal ferry. Yet, as we've explored the true historical context, a critical question emerges. Where did this enduring visual truly originate, if not as a widespread ancient Greek practice? The unequivocal answer from archaeology and classical scholarship is that the practice of placing coins specifically on the eyes was not a standard, widespread ancient Greek death ritual for the purpose of paying Charon. The overwhelming evidence points to the coin being placed in the mouth of the deceased, beneath the tongue, or rarely in the hand. So if not Greek, then where? The most likely origins are twofold, blending practical necessity with later cultural adaptations. In ancient Rome, while placing coins in the mouth was common, there are scattered instances where coins, or sometimes small ceramic discs, were placed on the eyelids. This was often done for the pragmatic reason of keeping the eyes closed during the osculum mortis, the final kiss, and the subsequent preparation of the body, preventing the unsettling sight of open eyes. This practical application, while not directly related to Charon's fee, could have laid a subtle historical groundwork for the visual. The true solidification of coins on eyes as an iconic symbol, however, seems to be a phenomenon of more recent times, heavily influenced by modern media and popular culture. The visual impact is undeniable. It's dramatic, evocative, and instantly communicates death, finality, and a sense of a paid passage. From early 20th century gangster movies depicting a final payment to horror films and fantasy epics, this striking image became a powerful shorthand for the underworld and the rituals surrounding death. It's a powerful narrative device, easily understood and visually impactful, making it a favorite for storytellers. Thus, the image we so readily associate with ancient death rites is, in essence, a modern myth. It's a testament to the power of visual storytelling, a fascinating example of how artistic license can, over time, eclipse historical accuracy, becoming its own potent truth in the collective imagination. Despite uncovering the nuanced historical truths behind the Obolus and debunking the coins on eyes myth, the stories of Charon, his ferry, and the passage fee continue to captivate. Why do these ancient tales, whether perfectly accurate in their popular depiction or not, still resonate so profoundly with us across millennia and cultures? The enduring power of these myths lies in their profound engagement with universal human experiences. Death is the ultimate unknown, the great equalizer, a transition that every individual, every family, every civilization must confront. In ancient Greece, as today, rituals provided structure, comfort, and a means to process grief and fear. The myth of Charon offers a tangible framework for this terrifying journey, a destination, a guide, and a requirement. It transforms the terrifying void into a navigable passage, however grim. Charon, the stoic, uncompromising ferryman, becomes an archetypal figure, the gatekeeper, the boundary crosser, the one who facilitates the transition. His presence lends a sense of order to the chaos of death, suggesting that even in the final separation, there is a path, a process, a rule. The Obolus, in turn, is not merely a payment. It's an act of preparation, a completion of duties, a symbol of acceptance of the journey. It gives the living agency in the face of helplessness, allowing them to perform a final act of care for their loved one, ensuring their peaceful repose. These narratives tap into our deepest psychological needs, the need for meaning in the face of the inexplicable, the desire for continuity beyond physical existence, and the search for control in a moment defined by its absence. They provide comfort, a shared cultural understanding of what happens when life ends, and a framework for hope, however faint, for some form of existence beyond the veil. Whether consciously or unconsciously, we continue to embrace these stories because they speak to our shared humanity, our universal struggle with loss, and our timeless quest for answers to life's most profound questions. They are not just stories from the past. They are reflections of our ongoing present. The Greek underworld, its stoic ferryman Charon, and the iconic Obolus have transcended their ancient origins, weaving themselves into the very fabric of Western culture. Their legacy is not confined to history books, but echoes through centuries of literature, art, and even our everyday language, proving the enduring power of these profound mythological concepts. In literature, the journey through the underworld is a recurring motif. Homer's Odyssey presented one of the earliest literary descents, influencing countless others. Virgil's Aeneid cemented Charon's role as the gatekeeper of the dead for the Roman world, a depiction that profoundly shaped subsequent Christian thought. But perhaps no work solidified Charon's image more dramatically than Dante Alighieri's Inferno in the 14th century, where Charon is a furious, demonic figure, ferrying the damned across the Acheron. This grim portrayal has profoundly influenced our modern perception of the ferryman. Art throughout the ages has continually revisited these themes. From the vibrant scenes on ancient Greek vases depicting Hermes guiding souls to the underworld, to Renaissance and Baroque paintings showing Charon's boat filled with the anguished dead, e.g., Joachim Patiner's landscape with Charon crossing the Styx, artists have found endless inspiration. The Romantic era, with its fascination for the sublime and the macabre, saw renewed interest, producing powerful works like Gustave Dorés' evocative illustrations for Dante's Inferno. Even in modern language and popular culture, the legacy persists. Phrases like crossing the Styx or paying the ferryman are idioms still understood today, metaphors for facing a final, inevitable journey or settling one's affairs before death. In contemporary fantasy literature, video games, films, and comic books, figures akin to Charon or concepts like a passage fee regularly appear, adapted for new narratives, but always rooted in their ancient Greek predecessors. The very idea of an underworld, a realm of the dead, owes a profound debt to the meticulous and imaginative descriptions found in Greek mythology. This continuous reimagining and integration demonstrate the universality of these core human dilemmas, death, judgment, and the journey beyond, and how ancient Greek thought provided a compelling, resonant framework that continues to shape our collective imagination. As our exploration concludes, we step back from the specificities of ancient Greek ritual to behold a broader, more profound truth. The story of Charon and the Obolus is, at its heart, a testament to our shared humanity. Across every civilization, in every epoch, humanity has grappled with the same existential questions. What lies beyond death? How we cope with loss? How do we find meaning in the face of the ultimate unknown? The ancient Greeks, with their intricate myths and carefully orchestrated rituals, provided answers that offered comfort, structure, and a sense of continuity. The Obolus for Charon, whether a literal payment or a powerful symbol, served as a bridge between the living and the dead, ensuring a loved one's passage was honored and complete. This deeply human need to prepare the departed, to offer them provisions for a final journey, is not unique to Hellenic culture. We see echoes of this across the globe and throughout history, from the elaborate mummification rituals of ancient Egypt, where pharaohs were provisioned with everything needed for their eternal life, to the rich offerings of sustenance and precious goods placed in Aztec tombs, to the diverse funeral ceremonies of modern cultures, where flowers, prayers, and eulogies serve as our contemporary oboli, symbolic gestures to honor, remember, and facilitate transition. Each tradition, however different in its outward expression, springs from the same wellspring of human emotion: grief, love, hope, and the innate desire for the deceased to find peace. The myths of Charon and the Obolus, even when filtered through modern misinterpretations, resonate because they speak to this universal human struggle. They remind us that our ancestors, just like us, sought to make sense of the profound mystery of death, to soften its sharp edges with ritual, and to imbue it with meaning. In their quest for understanding, the Greeks forged a narrative that continues to connect us, generations later, to their profound contemplation of mortality. It is a shared heritage, a shared vulnerability, and a shared, enduring search for comfort in the face of life's final, inevitable journey. Our journey began with a captivating, yet often misleading, image: coins placed dramatically upon the eyes of the deceased. We ventured through the mists of popular culture to the bedrock of historical truth, uncovering the authentic practice of Charon's Obolus, not on the eyes, but carefully positioned in the mouth, a solemn fare for the ferryman. We have delved deep into the profound Greek beliefs about the underworld, a complex realm shaping their understanding of existence itself. We've witnessed the solemnity of their rituals, from the meticulous preparation of the dead for their final voyage, to the crucial role of Charon, the silent psychopomp whose task it was to guide souls across the treacherous rivers. These ancient traditions reveal far more than just a fear of the unknown. They speak to a deep, universal human desire, a desire to ensure peace for the departed, to honor their memory, and to find meaning in the cycle of life and death for those left behind. Ultimately, the stories and rituals surrounding mortality continue to resonate, echoing through millennia to shape our own understanding of existence. They offer a poignant reflection on our shared humanity, our timeless quest for closure, remembrance, and the profound acceptance of life's final chapter. What ancient rituals do you find most fascinating? Let us know in the comments below.